Welcome to Chat Mate. Today's episode is a deeply personal and meaningful conversation, one that speaks to loss, resilience, and the quiet strength it takes to keep going when life feels overwhelming.
Our guest today is Harmonie Wheeler. She is a personal trainer and she helps people recover from injuries and build muscles. Welcome and thanks for joining us today.
For letting me tell my story a little bit.
Awesome. Will you tell us a little bit about your story?
So I'm a mother of 4 kids. I'm pretty much a stay-at-home mom. I always had like mom job kind of things. Like personal training, it's flexible. I could still do, where my children would still be my number one priority. My second child is a little girl. Her name is Symphony. And when she was born, she was just this happy-go-lucky little kid. By the time she was about 2, she started going through the terrible twos, and I thought that was normal, but she kind of never came out of it so much. By the time she was 9 years old, she would cry for hours, and I could never figure out why. And I was always like, why are you crying? Are you hurt? Did somebody hurt you? Are you sad? I would go through all the ABCs, multiple choice questions on why she's crying. Looking back now, I understand that she didn't know why. But she was 9 years old and in 2nd grade, I believe. And that was the first time that we saw suicide ideation. So she had drawn a picture. I can't believe it's already so hard. She'd drawn a picture of herself hanging in a tree from a noose. And at first, you don't want to believe anything like that with your child, that anything so serious can happen. We tried many different things, and religion, it's all about service and following Christ and all that kind of stuff. So we tried to do that. We tried to do a lot of service with her. She was 13 years old when she had her first suicide attempt. She'd overdosed on her depression medication with Prozac. And so we had taken her to see a therapist, and the therapist had told us that it was our fault, that children don't have depression. It means that they're being abused. So of course, then we have to look around and be like, I'm a stay-at-home mom who's abusing my child. And that, we get through that every time. So that was her first suicide attempt. She had several suicide attempts. About every 1.5 to 2 years, she had another attempt. Each attempt seemed to get worse and worse. It got bad enough that one time when she was 15, and she was in a coma for 5 days. And they told me that she may never wake up from that coma. And it was funny because they just pulled us out of the room, told us that she may never wake up. And I remember thinking, I don't care, she just can't die. And she made eye contact with me when I went in. It was only a second. When you watch somebody in a coma, they're kind of like, depends on the types of coma, but hers was, she was coherent, not coherent, and it was mostly just silliness. Like she was looking for the ice cream under the bed at one point. But that was after she was starting to wake up. But anyway, when she made that eye contact with me for just a moment, it was like when you look into their eyes and it's empty inside, you can almost like see down past their souls, and they're empty inside. For a moment, she'd like come up to the surface and I could see her. She had her eyes open throughout most of this coma. And I saw her come to the surface, and I of course run out and go get a nurse, and I'm like, she's there, she's there. And they're like, no, we're sorry, she's not there. She was there, and she did make a full recovery. So we had been through this several times, and she had a very specific pattern. She would she would have a suicide attempt, and then she would get a ton of help, super intensive help. She spent time, like, I think she was 13. So it was after her first attempt. She spent 4 months in a residential treatment center, basically until we ran out of money, because it was really expensive. We took out our 401k and, did everything we could. We're fortunate that we had that opportunity to be able to do that for her. And then another time when she was 17, I could see she was going downhill, and I can see that her cycle was happening. I wanted to prevent the suicide attempt. So again, I enrolled her in a residential treatment center. That's where she finished her high school.
There were you.
She spent another 11 months at that time at the residential treatment center. But her patterns were, she would do really well. She would kind of like come to the surface. She would be really good about taking her medication. And then she would not need her medication anymore, according to her. And it's hard to force a 15, 16, 17-year-old to take medication if they don't want to. It's not something they can actually control for other people, even for a child. And the medication, she didn't like it. She didn't like the way she felt on it. She didn't feel right, I guess. But so then she would go into withdrawal. That's what she would do. Not withdrawal from the medication, but withdrawal from people, withdrawal from what she would be doing. She would stop engaging. She would just kind of black hole herself. She wasn't like, when some people with depression or, other mental illnesses, they might come in and they're like a hurricane. She was the opposite. She was the black hole. She would just suck it in. And she would turn within herself. She wasn't mean to other people. She wasn't mean to me. She wasn't mean. She was horrible to herself. She was really brutal to herself. And of course, you can't hear those conversations, but you can kind of see it on the outside. That belief of not having value somehow within themselves. And so she, in this cycle, she would pull away from people, and she would purposefully destroy relationships. She would try to destroy, and so that the people who loved her would leave her. That was her goal. And it wasn't to punish them. It wasn't to hurt them. I think it was to protect them. Because if you hate me, then you won't miss me so much. And also, I think that's kind of a twofold thing. When she would do things to like destroy relationships, it would also be like, see, I am a bad person. So now you know what I am. Like, I feel like she was doing it on purpose, but to protect us in a way. As her mother, she couldn't get rid of me. Because, you're just always there for your kids. There were times that I was like, oh, okay, I've had it now. We're going to take a little break. Because sometimes it would become very hurtful, but it was just her attempt to try to get me to stop loving her. She would do that with her boyfriends or her significant others. She would do that with her friends. She would almost like try to get them to stop loving her. And at that same time, as she's trying to get rid of her old ties, she would make new ties. So she would find new friends and what I called a new boyfriend. And whenever a new boyfriend would appear, I would go, oh no, she's about to hurt herself. Because that was my big sign that she was going to have a suicide attempt. And so I would usually talk with new boyfriend and make sure that he had my phone number and he had my contact information so that he could call me if she ever needed help. And this is especially as she became an adult, because at 18, 19, I had zero control over her. My role switches from, protector to somebody who is a bystander. I can watch, I can help, but I cannot stop. I cannot control her. And I tried to support her in what she needed. We tried to give her, we gave her all the tools before she turned 18. I mean, she spent a total of 18 months in the residential treatment center. We did all sorts of therapy. We did red light therapy, tap therapy, like the blinking light therapy. We did sound work. We did energy work. We did, regular Western medicine as well. We did medications. We did therapy. Therapy was hit and miss. That's as hit and miss as like, I don't know, sound therapy or something. I don't know. But because we've had therapists where they blame us. I mean, it got so bad that we would have the police show up to our door because we were blamed for her depression. Her depression was our fault. It was parents' fault. And, but we didn't know what else to do. We did everything we could. When I think back about her childhood, I think, oh, what could I have done differently? I think we could have done family home evening more often, but that's getting a little bit ridiculous. We tried to make family and work and service, and we did everything we were supposed to do. She was still so sick. She had depression. And I couldn't make her be better. And, when she was younger, I could physically hold her down and stop her from hurting herself, even though there were times when, she did manipulate with it a little bit. One time, I wouldn't let her go out with friends because I just had a feeling, and I was like, something's up. She was probably 14 or 15 years old. And I was like, something's up. Your friends can come over here, but you can't go to your friend's house. And she said, so I'm grounded. I'm like, no, you're not grounded. I just would rather you guys hang out here. Just something's amiss. Either you're not telling me something or I don't know. I don't feel good about it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm a big believer in intuition, mother's intuition. I believe in the other side and all that other kind of stuff. And she says, if you don't let me go, I will cut myself. And I said, that's not my decision. That's your decision. My decision is that you stay here and you play here. Your decision would be hurting yourself, but you cannot blame me for your decisions. I said, my decision is that you're here and that you're safe. I need to know that you're okay. So she did. She went and she would take apart pencil sharpeners. She would buy pencil sharpeners at the dollar store and take them apart and would get the blade out of that. Or she would take apart her shaver. She's like 15 years old. I did let her shave her legs and I did let her shower by herself. I tried, because normally she's a really good kid. Like, she never struggled in school. She didn't really do drugs or alcohol or anything like that. No, I was older. But yeah, she came back. I was in the office working and I had my youngest son on my lap and we were looking at, I don't know, Minecraft or my singing monsters or something. And he's, I think, 7 years younger than her. So if she was say 15, he would be, what's that? 7 years old. So he's little, he's sitting on my lap. And she comes in and she says, look what you made me do. And she's dripping blood. He's she had cut her wrist and she's dripping on the ground. And I'm trying hard not to eat into it because she still can only play here. She still can't. Because you cut yourself, you can't go out and play with your friends. That's not like your reward, you know? So I always felt like I had to be the rock for her. I couldn't participate with any kind of emotional instability. I needed to be the strong one for her. And as I look back, I think I've found many times already. Emotions are not really my challenge. I don't ride a roller coaster. I don't suffer from depression. That's a real serious illness. It is something that you're born with. Nobody causes it. Nobody gives it to you other than just genetics. It's just something that you're born with. You haven't done anything wrong and your family hasn't done anything wrong. But for whatever reason, I wasn't given that. And I think that's one of the blessings that I do have is that I think there's a reason why we were put down here together is that she needed me to be that solid person. So that it gave her the space to have all those emotions. Because if I was super emotional too, it's kind of like when you are with your spouse, only one of you can be crazy at a time.
Yeah.
And so I didn't feed into it. She's bleeding and I'm looking down and I'm like, well, it's coagulating well, that's going to dry up. It'll be harder. It'll be much easier to clean up right now. You're still going to have to clean up your blood that you dropped on the ground. So I tried not to feed into it, but did that hurt? Oh, yeah. Yeah, but I had to beat them up. But couldn't be the child in this relationship. And that's how a lot of our relationship was. I tried so hard to understand and comprehend and stuff. But anyway, going back to her cycle, so she would be really good after a suicide attempt. She'd be on medication. She would be more engaged. It was like she'd almost come to the surface, but not quite. It was very, very rare that I ever saw her at the surface. From when she was a little baby, I could see her. Like when you look into somebody's eyes, you can see them. And it was like almost like there was a film over her eyes. The way that I would describe it as I would try to understand and comprehend what was going on with her when I didn't understand. I didn't live with it. I don't have depression, so I don't comprehend it in the same way. Sure, did I have postpartum depression? I went through that, but that was a time. That was a hormonal thing. That was a time and it would go away. It wasn't there before. And after a while, it went away. It wasn't something I lived with like she lived with. So there's two main ways that I would describe it. And one was, it was like she was under the water. I was out on the boat. I'm in the boat and I can see under the water. I can see she's there. And I would reach down into the water, but I couldn't ever quite grab her. I could never grab her. She would have to come to me a little bit, but she couldn't. And it was like, we called her depression Fabio, because I'm like, how's Fabio today? And Fabio's all over me, And so we tried to make it, it was part of our life. The illness was part of our life. And so she could come sometimes closer to the surface. So in her good times, she would be closer to the surface where you can make eye contact, you can communicate, but she didn't come out of the water. People go, oh, why don't they want to come out? But I can kind of comprehend it. Water is safer in water. Above the water, you get sunburns. You get steep, you get these things. There's mosquitoes. There's wind. It's warm and it's cold. A lot of noise. You go underwater, it's all muffled a little bit. Everything's muffled. it does get warm and cold under the water, but it's slower. You pick currents and it's slower. But you never get a sunburn. You don't get bit by insect. It's in a lot of ways under the water it's safe. It's a safe place to be rather than the unknown above the water. You could get rocked out of your boat. There could be all sorts of things. You think about people who are sitting up on the boat and they're just trying to stay up on the boat, and how many people suffer from a little bit of depression and they're like, I don't know, I might fall in it, and they're having to fight so hard. Easier to just float up the water, to just be that little bit muffled, a little bit protected, also a little bit lower in that excitement. You don't have the super highs. You don't have the super lows.
So her depression was like, since she started, always there. Like it didn't increase with the years, or I don't know, those teenage years.
No, it
was.
So talking about hormones, though, 2 times that I got to see her as a grown woman, she was pregnant. So she carried 2 babies full term, and when she was pregnant, it was like she came out. See, she was still her same person. She still had a macabre personality. Her humor was still kind of, a little dark. Her favorite color was still black. I mean, but she was present. And so when she got pregnant with her first baby, she was 19. She had it when she was 20, and she was present. It was like I had my daughter. It was the most amazing. It was a little bit shocking too, because I was kind of like, what's going on here? Why are you talking to me? Because she came out of the fog, out of the water, and it was beautiful. It was so beautiful. So that was all part of her cycle, right? She was always under the water, but when she was on medication, she'd come closer, not out of the water, come closer. And then she would, it was almost like she would tip over our boat, to be like, no, you don't want to be around me. Stop hanging around me. You don't want to be with me. And I think she would find a new boyfriend, because she was hurting so much inside. She was like, how can I make my life better? Maybe these relationships are toxic. I need to be away from these people, and I need to change my life. If I want a different outcome, I need a different life. Maybe I'm tired of this boyfriend and I need a new one. Or I hate this job and I want a new job. So she would do everything I think it was a real effort to try to bring joy and happiness to her, because sometimes she would sink so deep that she would, I think, eventually be like, it's so dark down here that I need at least some light. I'm trying so hard to stay alive. Just, so that was part of her effort. But I also knew that if she's finding new people, that was her trying so hard to stay alive. So I knew to watch her closer. So I'd bring her in tighter. And, in January of 2022, she was pulling away, and in February, and I was like, no, we built a house together. So we live in the same building, 2 different apartments, different sides of the garage. I'm on one side garage, she's on the other side of the garage. And she had moved out, and that was part of the whole new boyfriend, new life kind of thing. So she'd moved out, and so part of my attempt, as an example of trying to pull her in closer, because I knew where she worked, but she didn't tell me where she lived. We still shared an Amazon account, so I knew where everything was getting delivered.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I watched the Amazon, and I would see that she's making purchases, which was a sign she was alive, she was living. Okay. And I would try to drop off like something to her work, just something really quick and easy. Not invading her space. I'm trying to give her space, but I would drop off, she loved mashed potatoes from Kentucky Fried Chicken. So I'd go drop off mashed potatoes and just, she could eat whatever she wanted to. There it is. Just know I loved it. And I would drop off little things. But anyway, eventually though, after she gets the new boyfriend and new friends, they wouldn't fix the depression. You can be the new boyfriend and you're not going to heal this disease. She can change all of her friends and it will not heal her disease. She can get rid of her mom and dad. It won't heal the disease. There's still the depression there. The medication, I think, simmer it down, but it's still there. So anyway, we've been through all of that. That particular year in 2022, she cut herself along, straight up and down on her arms. And she has a video of her bleeding out the bathtub. And I get a phone call. I am teaching a class at the rec center. And I get a phone call from a new boyfriend. And I know that any phone call from a new boyfriend is not. So he says, hey, and I'm like, where's Symphony? Is she okay? Where is she? And he's like, well, I'm kind of torn. I don't want to tell everything because what would happen is every time Symphony would go to get new people, she would talk bad about the old people. I think it would also kind of give her support. So I knew she did this. I knew she would tell people, my mother is so horrible. I don't even know everything because they didn't ever tell me what she told them. And I don't know that I really want to know. But he says, I know you guys have a rocky relationship. And I'm like, I don't really. As far as I know, we're best friends. But sure, she's told me we have a rocky relationship.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. And I said, listen, I need her to have a safe place. Don't tell me anything. I said, I can figure it out. I know she lives in Murray. And if you're calling me, she's tried to hurt herself. So she's at IMC hospital, probably in the emergency room. And he goes, okay. So that's how I knew. So I was like, okay, so she's in the emergency room. We're okay. I said, this is okay. Emergency room hospital means she's alive. She's probably not going to die. We're okay. Right? We do go and visit her. I call my husband. I kind of finished my class, but can't really am I? I gotta go. So I leave and I call my husband and I'm like, well, let's bring her something. She doesn't particularly care for flowers. She's a minimalist. She doesn't like things. So we don't want to bring her anything that can't just be thrown away because she loves the throwaway stuff. So then we're like, well, let's get black flowers. And it'd be fun for her. So we stopped and we bought flowers. We found a florist that would make us black flowers. And we brought her black flowers and we had this great time at the hospital. And I got to, beg her not to do it and ask her, how she could have bled out. It would take a long time, but she could have. She would have just left it. But she texts for help, or sends like drug texts. And so then people check on her and they came and they helped her. And that's why she didn't die that time or any of the other times. People would be able to figure it out when she's overdosing. She would say something to somebody, or wouldn't respond when she was going to respond or something like that. There was always some tiny little call on to make people go, oh, something's happening. So I said, thank you. Why do you do that? What is it that makes you do that? And I'm thinking, how can we grow on this? Whatever it is that's in your brain that's making you pull out so much. How do I feed them? Well, anyway, she's 25 at this time and new boyfriend is still kind of in the picture. Usually new boyfriend fails after this is said. It's scary. He's new. So this guy was quite a bit older than her. I want to say he was in his 30s. And he did not want a long-term relationship as far as I could tell, but he still tried to support her. He didn't fail. And so for the first time, I was not involved in her recovery plan. But I thought, I need to let her do what she needs to do. I can't do it for her. I need to let her do what she needs to do. And we checked on her. She did go to inpatient care and that kind of stuff. And then when she got out, instead of us picking her up and instead of us having visits, new boyfriend did. And we were like, hey, oh, it was okay. You know, I'm still really concerned, you know, and so we were still, and we've known that there's a hormone thing with pregnancies. So we know it's a hormone thing. There's something chemically in her body that is causing this depression. We've got to figure this out. She's 25. How many hormone doctors are like, oh, yeah, let's check out this 25-year-old? Few. It's hard to find. I need to find this doctor who will talk to, because we tried endocrinologists and they're like, yeah, no, we talked to our OBGYN and he's like, that's not it. And, you know, we went to how many different therapists and we went to whole therapy, you know, centers where we're doing brain scans and we're doing all sorts of things to try to figure this out. So on March 4th, she had an appointment with the hormone doctor and that didn't go well. They had like missed they like accidentally canceled everything and blah, blah, blah. It was kind of a mess. And then, so I don't know fully what happened to that. Tiffany, do you want me to come with you? And she's like, oh, Mom, I gotta be able to get some out. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to like let my kids be rough to do their thing. And I don't want to, and how much do I help? How much do I not help? Yeah. Not overstep. I want to give her space. And she had asked for space. She had said, Mom, I need space. And she had sent me this text on February 3rd, actually, just before her suicide attempt. The text was written so well. And this was before everybody was using AI for everything. It really felt like her therapist helped her read it. That's not unreasonable. The therapist is hearing everything from Symphony's side, hearing everything in her reality. And her reality is a different reality. You know, and her reality does not mean anybody goes to jail over her reality or anything like that. But she blocked me. But then when she had the attempt on February 14th, she unblocked me. So I was only blocked for like 11 days. But I was still trying hard to give her space. Anyway, she says, yes, Mom, I'll pick up the medication. And yes, I'm seeing my therapist. You know, do you want to stop by? Help you with whatever? You know, how's your face? Do you need any help? No, Mom, I'm good. So she went to this hormone therapy thing. It was kind of a mess. We still don't know the results of that. My husband might. He did go get all the medical records. But then that was on March 3rd. And I continued to text her, but tried not to text her too much. It was like once every couple of days, I would send her pictures of me and her son, who I was helping to take care of. And, you know, we're going to go do this and wish you were here. And, you know, all that kind of stuff. And tried to tell her how important she was. And just, you know, not love bomb her, but not any more than usual, really. And maybe this is the hardest part. On April 7th, about 9, we were in Moab camping. I had Atlas, her son, in my arms. And we were just, I'm kind of the person who plans everything for the family and organizes everything. And we're going to watch the movie. I had made Dutch oven brownies. I had strawberry ice cream to go with it. All excited. It's funny that the details are numbered. My phone rings. And it was new boyfriend. And actually, I don't really remember anything else. But I think he was silent. He didn't say anything. I'm pretty sure I was like, where's Symphony? Where is she? And I was on the ground. I must have set down Atlas. I don't know. It came with me. I don't know if I fell. I just fell to my knees. It was just, we were camping, so I'm out in the dirt. And somehow I ended up in the truck, and Atlas was with us. I do remember somebody saying, "What do you want with Atlas?" And I'm like, "Bring him." He was barely 3 years old. He just turned 3, just a week and a half before. It's 2 weeks before. And we're riding in the car. I'm not driving. I'm delirious. I'm in hysterics. And that cute little 3-year-old is in his car seat behind my seat. I usually drove, so he would be behind the passenger seat, so we could hold hands or talk or at the end of things. And so I was in the passenger seat, and he's crying. I'm wailing. And he keeps saying to me, "It's okay, Gigi. Okay, Gigi. Your mother just died." And I remember keep thinking, no. And that was like all I could say was no. Because it was just no. This is never supposed to happen. And she used to sometimes tell me about how she wanted to be buried. And I was like, no, you don't get to tell your mom. I tell you how I want to be buried. You tell your children how you want to be buried. Those are the rules. And I would tell her, you ever make me bury you? Knowing that black is her favorite color. She's covered in tattoos. Has kind of that dark persona. And I would tell her, I'm like, if you make me bury you, I'm burying you in a pink frilly dress. So if you don't like that, then you better make sure that I am not there burying you. Better be dead before you die. But anyway, so we're in the car. I'm on the phone with the detective and my sister, who is a U.S. Marshal. And I'm like, where are you? She's in Washington, D.C. She was just on a conference. And I'm like, I need you right now. You have to be there. Don't let them move the body. Do not let them touch her. And she's like, you've got to not be hysterical. Don't be hysterical. And my two older boys hadn't come down to Moab yet, and they were still there. And I'm not sure how they got told. I don't know. I was delirious for most of this, and I'm sure my husband did most of that. Normally in our relationship, I'm the emotionally stable one. I don't freak out. I don't have highs. I don't have lows. And my husband is my roller coaster. He's the one that goes up and down. He's all over the place. I'm his rock. And we switched places that day. I just didn't do anything. And but I just really didn't want to touch her body. And it ended with police department threatening to arrest my sons. And I was like, they're like, this could be a murder. And I'm like, a murder? That is so much worse. That's so much worse than suicide in our situation. I understand that the other people's suicide would be worse. But for me, with our history, her choosing or her deciding how was her choice. I don't believe that her dying was really her choice. Her having this illness was her choice. She didn't choose to kill herself. It beat her down until she could do nothing else. But the only beauty that I can think of with this kind of death is that she got to choose how. She got to decide how she was going to go out. And as much as I super hate that, I absolutely hate that, I have to respect that too. And I just She had left her key to her little apartment that she was living in. She'd only lived there for like 2.5 months. She left it out on her front, on her welcome mat. She left her phone unlocked. She left the suicide note out. This word gets more graphic. She put garbage bags underneath her. She sat down at the edge of her bed and she laid back and she shot herself. One of the side effects of shooting yourself in the foot, though, means that there's no blood. Because if there's no more pump to pump the blood out, then the blood just stops and sits where it's at. So she had like a white bedspread. Was it. And I'm still offended by the police because it's not their choice. It's not their choice what to do with the body. It is my choice. I am the mother. She was not married. It's my choice to be there with her. And, if they absolutely want me to touch her, I could have done that. But I need to see the look on her face. Was she in pain? Was she scared? But they took her and they wouldn't let me have her. They took the suicide note. They took the phone. When they say, well, this is the crime scene, I think this is my daughter's death scene. And they took it all. And I think no crime was committed here. It was obvious. She has a huge history. They could have walked in and seen she had killed herself, shut the door, and then given us the option. Said, would you like to see in? Would you like us to take care of it? For me, all the things that I've done, how many times she's been in the hospital, how many times I've taken out her earrings or one time she was in a coma and we needed to get the MRI done. She had piercings all over. And the nurses there, sometimes at the hospital, the nurses were nice and were grateful I was there to brush her teeth, wash her hair, keep her clean, to sit. And other times nurses looked at us like, what did you do? Did you cause this? And the judgment's hard. But this nurse was nice and she's in and out. And she has to go through the MRI. So we've got to remove all the earrings, right? So all the metal's got to be removed. So we move them off of her face and her lips, her eyebrows, her chest. Symphony, do you have any piercings on your private areas? And she's, out of it. She doesn't really pay any attention. Reach out for her. And she sits right upright, wide open. And she goes, of course I do. I have 3. And then is back down. And the nurse and I look at each other. She goes, that sounds like a mom job. I'm like, that sounds like a nurse job. But it really doesn't bother me. But yes, I did check. She had no piercings down there. But so I was there at the birth of both of her boys. I was there. I held her like a little girl until she was 25 years old. Like she'd sit on my lap and I would hold her. She was my little girl. I was going to hold her. Yeah. I held her when she was first born. They wouldn't let. It was another day before we got her body. And, money is an issue. I never took out a life insurance policy on her because I didn't want her to ever think it was going to be okay. I didn't ever want to give her permission. But just because she was 25, she was still under our health insurance. And so we had a little bit there, but it wasn't enough to bury her. And years earlier, I had bought 3 plots. Probably like 8 years before she died. I bought 3 plots up at the cemetery as close as I could get to my parents. And that came in handy because my first experience with severe grief was with my friend. He was a week old. He got an infection at the hospital. And it was just too little. I did. And it killed it. So we buried him there. So at least we already had the box. So that made it nice. But this funeral home that picked up Symphony from medical examiner's office. We're still shopping around funeral homes because they're like, pick up the body. And you're like, what? And I want to get to the body. I need to get to the body so bad. I know that's not everybody's reactions, but for me, I needed to get to the body. I needed to hold her. I needed to touch her. She, Mark's on the phone with them and he says, do you want him to wash her? And I'm like, I don't know. And that was, I should have washed her. So they washed her makeup off. And they washed her hair. And it wasn't, I needed to see her as she died. And that was all washed away. And then this funeral home was Serenity Funeral Homes. He was the big guy. He was a nice guy, all very slender, but he wouldn't let us be alone. I thought that's very weird, but I thought maybe that's how it is. I don't know. I had been involved in Roman's burial, but we got to be alone with Roman as much as we wanted before the funeral home as reason picked him up. Because he never went to the medical. Well, he did go to the medical exam, so story. But anyway, then my sister, out of nowhere, we're comparing pricing and stuff like that because you have to go through all of that right after your child is dead. And that's part of the problem of the out of order death is you're thrown into it. Luckily, I'd done it before with my grandson, so I had been prepped a little bit. But burying a baby is a very different thing than burying a 25-year-old. The costs are really different. And anyway, my sister hands me $3,000. And it was the exact difference between going with Serenity and going with Larkin. And so at that time though, Serenity, this was on Friday, and Serenity's like, we have to embalm. And I'm like, well, can't you just wait? I don't want her embalmed yet. I need to hold her hand. I don't want her embalmed yet. And they're like, you know what? We're going to charge you this much more and this much more. If she's not embalmed, you have to embalm her. And so I'm like, well, I don't know. And you just make that choice. And so they embalmed her. So then Larkin gets her. We can be alone with her all we want. You can be alone with your dead body all you want. You can take your dead body home. Different states have different rules. I thought, we need death doulas to tell us all these things because you don't know all the laws. It's all just thrown at you and you're just like immersed in this. You don't know up from down. And I wish I had known that. But you can be alone with your dead body much as you want. And so we got to be alone with Symphony at that time. And but anyway, that's my story up to where my grief really, really gets big.